Well, hello. I don't know whether I'm live. I don't know whether anybody can hear me. I don't know whether the audio's working. There's an awful lot of stuff I don't know. I'll just move you down here. I'm just winging it today. Oh, well, that helps. So yeah, I'll just put the phone there for now. I'm not central. That's a bit better. Hey Tom, thanks for bobbing in. This is not going to be a big stream, a long stream, anything like that. It's just wanted to touch base with everybody and hope you had a good day yesterday and you got all you wanted and you ate far too much and you drank enough. And now that you're fully rested and you've been out with your family, certainly if you're in the UK, you would have been out with your family for a walk today, because that's what we do on bank holiday. On Boxing Days, years ago, I used to spend most of it in the pub. Not so much these days. Yeah, well, Tom, you've clearly got up bright and shiny this morning. I can only imagine. What are we now with 3? So it's going to be 2, 1. About 9 o'clock with you at the moment. About 9 a.m. or even 8 a.m. I'm not sure. 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning where you are. But yeah, I just wanted to come on and say hi. Been a bit of an interesting week or so since I got the machine. He says, pointing to his side, and nobody knows what the hell he's talking about. That machine. 8. Well done for getting up, Tom. Well done. So yeah, since having got that and done the unboxings with it and our chat about it and my plans to do so much with it, not a lot has actually happened. Like I say, life got in the way a bit, made things a little difficult. Excuse me. But yeah, I have played with it. I've done a few prints with it, not many. I started looking at HueForge stuff. I've done a couple of HueForge things, which I've posted on Twitter, one of which was my apology on Christmas Eve for not getting a stream out. That was a HueForge print that I did. I've printed the HueForge Lightbox out, so I can now do all the brightness tests on all the different filaments I've got to find out what levels they are, because you need that for HueForge. So yeah, I've got that sorted out. I have this morning ordered a load of Bambu Lab filaments, whatever they had in stock, and some different nozzle sizes. I've gone for the 0.6 and the 0.8 because the 0.2 isn't in stock at the moment, but when that comes into stock, I'll get one of those as well. But yeah, I was allowed 8 rolls of filament in December at the discounted price, so I've bought 8 rolls of filament. I'm sure that will go up as we get into January, because hopefully some of the ones I didn't get will come back into stock. I'm only going with the basic PLA, but hopefully that will work out with doing one thing or another. I am considering, well, I know what's going to happen. I had a thought over Christmas about the channel, and being on the bit that I've been on recently, I've watched my numbers start to rise again, which is lovely. Like I've said many times before, I've got very disillusioned with it in the past. But yeah, having seen the rise in views and a couple of subscribers on the run up to Christmas, that's given me a bit of an impetus to carry on and do a bit more. And I am going to probably, I mean, I know a lot of the big guys are going to be doing this, but I'm probably going to do a few pre-recorded videos on the A1 for people who've got them over the Christmas period who are new to 3D printing and simple little tips and tricks, walk them through the process of getting a file, slicing it, printing it. A few things they may come across, the obvious things like bed adhesion, that kind of thing. Bugman, hey buddy. Yeah, the kind of real basic things that people have issue with. Talk through those, and hopefully get a bit of the market of the new people that are coming to 3D printing and help them out to get successful prints. Because as much as there's a lot of stuff on online that they can print, it's best way to print it, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping to do a few videos on that. I know all the big people will be doing videos on that, but maybe I'll find something that people want to know. What I also thought was, in those videos, I will put at the end of each one, if there is anything that you don't get, or you need a little video on, leave a comment in the comments at the bottom, and then what I'll do is I'll do a series of shorts. So if somebody says I can't get this to work, rather than trying to explain it, I'll just do a YouTube short on it. You know, as soon as I can after I've received the comment to the pre-recorded video, and then that short can go out, and then that person can see what the answer is, and hopefully those shorts will then, if I describe them correctly, because you know what YouTube analytics are like, if I describe them correctly, it will then help other people who are having the same sort of fairly straightforward problems that to you and I wouldn't be an issue at all. But what we've got with these new printers is we're going to have an awful lot of people who haven't got a great deal of technical knowledge, and they might stumble on the simplest things. And if we can help them, I did see a post on one of the Facebook groups today saying about if all the intelligent people on will stop posting about the far end of a fart this week, and just bear in mind that there will be some, new people to the channel coming onto these new people coming onto these forums who've just got a printer, who know nothing, who are going to ask what we think are ridiculously stupid questions. Now we have to be patient. We're going to get a lot of the same questions again and again and again, and we just have to be very understanding. It always happens at Christmas. It's generally on the Ender 3 forums, but I think this year the Bambu forums are going to find a sudden influx of new people that really have no clue. So yeah, there was this post about just being a little bit more understanding and not belittling people who don't understand. And if I can help those people in some way, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, spot on. If I can help anybody in a little way by doing some shorts, like I say, or doing simple videos on things like remembering to clean your bed, stuff like that, because there isn't a great deal certainly in the Bambu documentation about making sure the bed's kept clean. People who have houses that have pets in it will do a print one day, take the print off, that'll be it. They might not go to it for 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days time, they go to try to print something. I've got no bed adhesion. They won't think that there's going to be a layer of dust now on that print surface, which the filament is going to stick to the dust rather than stick to the print surface, and things like that, and suggest about IPA. I mean, I have a bottle of IPA, which I keep safely away from the machine so it doesn't explode, but it's still about, so I can give the bed a wipe before as long as I remember, to do a print to make sure it goes. We're all new once. I'm always grateful for the people who helped me and continue to share our experience. Absolutely, yeah, totally. So that's where I want to go in the new year. Like I say, there will be a lot of big channels doing exactly the same thing. I don't doubt for one moment, because they need the views far more than I do, because they're reliant on it for their income in some situations. I'm not. I just like seeing people like my videos. I've said in a previous live stream that my most watched video of all time is one for the A10 Geetek A10 fitting a bed leveling sensor to it. Now, I didn't even know that Geetek still existed, never mind they were still selling A10s and that they didn't have bed leveling on them. And that's by far my biggest video ever, and it was just a very straightforward, informative, no work to the camera at all. It was just camera close up on the printer and explaining very simply how to fit it, how to add it in Marlin, and how to flash that firmware up so it worked, or to how to turn it on, because some of the later firmwares had it but it wasn't turned on. We keep our old Mr. Muscle button. Hey, if it works, it works, you know. But this is the thing. We've learned through time what works. I have a microfiber cloth, which is actually propping my phone up at the moment, and my isopropyl alcohol, and that's pretty much all I use. I will soapy wash the bed every now and again. Not so much with the textured PEI, but with the smooth one, I do use glue stick on it on the X1 Carbon. So I just use a normal Pritt stick, but I put a bit of Pritt stick on it, and then I squirt it with IPA, and sort of almost make that slurry that you used to have to do. I'm sure you guys will remember having to make slurry to make it stick to the old beds when you're using Kapton tape and painter's tape and going back through the mist at times like that. But yeah, I just do that. But like I say, it's things we've learned over the years that work for us. And if we can pass that information on to this new generation that's coming, well, I think that's brilliant. Like I say, I haven't done a massive amount of prints on the machine, purely because life got in the way somewhat over Christmas with one thing or another. No real issues to report that I can think of. I think I've had one failed retraction. Everything else has worked fairly well. It seems to print very nicely. It's incredibly quiet. The X1 Carbon hasn't had a look in because I've just been prattling about with PLA. My only two small things. One of them is spools, particularly Prussian spools. The hole in the middle is so small that you really have to force them onto the spindles of the AMS, and once you get them jammed on, they're quite difficult to pull off. In fact, in one case, I pulled the whole spool section off the AMS unit, trying to get it off. So yeah, some Prussian spools, in fact, every Prussian spool I've tried has been very tight. And then I found some others, like I've got one that's on here at the moment, and I've taken it off. But there were some others that are so. I know it's an Erie one. It's an Erie one black, and I put that on, and it slides on right to the very end, but it doesn't seem to grip it very well. And halfway through a print, it decided to roll off the AMS unit, which was a little bit annoying. So yeah, I know you can print adapters, and if you're certainly for the spools that the centers are too big, and if you're only going to use the bamboo machine, I suppose that sort of negates any issues. But the Prussian ones are very tight around the AMS unit and can cause problems. I've worked out that once you've got them pushed on, the best way to take them off is if you actually sort of turn the unit sideways and put your thumbs onto the center of the spool holder and then put your fingers behind the spool and push and pull at the same time. You can get the filament spool off without pulling the AMS unit to pieces. But it does take a bit of force, which may be an issue if you're a younger person. I mean, I've seen posts over Christmas of people as young as 9 and 10 who have got a printer that them and their dads or them and their mums or whatever have been using between them. So small hands might find that a little bit difficult. You've got to have sort of fairly large hands to be able to get, like I say, around the back of the spools and thumbs on the front to sort of pop it off. But that's that. And the only other thing that annoys me that I found so far is actually the feed mechanism being up and underneath. Sometimes you can spend an age trying to feed that filament in because your spool's in the way as much as anything. So what I've learned to do with that is, which I'm sure is something that you've all worked out as well, I actually don't put the spool on the AMS unit before I feed the the filament in. So I'll have the spool laid flat on the table with maybe that much filament off the roll. I'll then feed it into the AMS unit and then pick the spool up and put the spool on, because trying to do it with the spool in place, I found with my sausages for fingers is quite difficult, and I have found it's easier to do it that way. I think that's something that maybe they ought to look at changing the design of, because it is just a little bit fiddly. Right, feel the hole and info. I think, yeah. I mean, I've done that as well, but I just find it, if I don't know whether I've even got a camera over there. Oh, yes, I have got a camera over there. I'll do a transition like that. If I turn that, this is where everything goes to pieces, isn't it? This is where everything goes wrong, because I'm really not set up for this. But I didn't want to eat anymore. I didn't want to drink anymore. So yeah, all I do is I take the spool off like that and have it laid like that with a little bit unrolled, and then I've got that hand that I can feed it in, that hand that I can push it with, so I can do it like that. It starts to load, and all I do is I pick the reel up, pick the spool up, push the spool on as it's feeding in, and that's how I do it. But yeah, apart from that, and like I say, the issue with some spools, some spools not fitting on the AMS unit perfectly. I mean, it's less of an issue than it is with the AMS on the X1 Carbon, where you've got spools that don't fit sideways and kink and cardboard and all the fun that goes with that. But yeah, I think that's a design they could just maybe take a look at changing, is just how you actually feed that filament in. I'm sure they did a lot of work on it beforehand, but if there was just a way of, I don't know, maybe you could rotate it. I don't know. I mean, if that whole grey section, if it was on a maybe a ball that came out of here with a shaft, so you could twist it that way, pull it out, unlock it, twist it, and then you could feed your filament in and then push it and lock it back into place again. It wouldn't move those tubes much, but it would give you a lot better ability to get that into the, I don't know whether that's possible. I don't know whether I'm just talking utter rubbish, but because that, I mean, I don't think there's any motors particularly in this section. I think all the gubbings is just in here. So like I say, if that section would just pull out and twist, or pull out so you could actually see the hole to feed it, maybe it's something for the future, maybe not. But apart from that, it's a cracking little machine. Like I say, I've had no real issues with it, apart from the spools falling off. I had one print fail due to the fact I hadn't wiped the bed properly, and then I had the issue with one non-retracted filament. I think that was more of a sensor issue than anything, because all I did was I just wiggled the filament a little. I think what it did, it didn't retract it out of the top of the, I'm doing it again, aren't I? I'm pointing at the screen, I'm not even on. I think it didn't retract it all the way out of this splitter. It was a black and it was at the back, and it hasn't pulled it back far enough. So when it went to feed the next colour in, the black was still too far into the splitting head and it wouldn't fit in. So I just popped that off, pulled the black back. It realised it pulled the colour back in, which I think was red, and sorted itself. So it wasn't a major issue. It's amazing how quickly you forget about all the things we used to have to do when we got a new printer, like trying to make sure the gantry was level and trying to make sure that the nozzle was wiped and that your build plate was flat and all that malarkey that these new people don't have to worry about. Bigger funnel for the target area. Yeah, you mean the orange bit on the bottom? If it was bigger, so you could sort of almost like a slide it so you're on the right part. If it was more of the underside of the feeder unit, it would just sort of slide and slot in. Yeah, that would solve it. That would be an easier way of solving it than the way I do it. But yeah, I'm sure with later iterations it will become far better. I still haven't quite worked out how to do time lapses with it. I've there's something I've not turned on, which is glaringly obvious, but like I said, didn't really use it a lot. I put the single spool feeder on, and in fact that's still in. Did some single color prints just to check that out. Works perfectly well. I've had no real issues at all. Like I did a couple of little Christmas decoration-y things using UForge, which I'm really impressed with UForge. It is, again, it's a learning curve, and with UForge they need a bigger library of filaments, and I know on their Discord they have a section where people put all that in, but I honestly think you should be able to load them up somehow, so more filaments actually come with the UForge software, because even if they're not massively accurate, it's still better than trying to second guess everything when you're trying to get your depths right. But yeah, it's a hell of a machine. I mean, you will have seen my few interactions on Twitter about it with certain people. We won't go into that on here. We won't go into the it's stealing your data. I mean, I've said in the past, and I'm first to put my hands up and say, I quite frankly don't care whether Bambu Labs are stealing my data or not. You know, they're more than welcome to what information they can get off that machine. But from articles I've read and posts I've read, Bambu Labs are getting a bit peed off with it, and they're getting a little bit sick of people trying to put them down. But we won't dwell on that, because that's really not what 3D printing is about. And for me, it's a great little machine. It's a print and play job, which is ace. But yeah, I think a series of maybe shortish, very instructional, not a lot of me to the camera, just more focusing on the actual machine itself and saying, you know, if you get a clog, if it says there's a clog in the AMS, you know, how to lift the Bowden tube out, and, you know, check this, check that. Just simple, straightforward videos, but videos for people that they don't have to go through a 40-minute video to find out how to change the nozzle. You know, how to change the nozzle. First thing, switch the printer off. Make sure it's cold. Leave it 20 minutes. You know, leave it half an hour. I mean, whatever it takes. I'll measure. I'll measure how long it takes to go from like a printing of a PLA temperature to a temperature where it's holdable. So that will then go in the video. You know, make sure you leave it 20 minutes after switching the machine off before you attempt to do this, and then explain as straightforwardly and as succinctly how to change that nozzle over, and then how to purge it and that sort of thing. And that's kind of direction I'm going to go with it. And like I say, there'll be a lot bigger, more important people doing videos like that, but hopefully then there'll be something new comes along that takes them away and they have to build another printer or whatever. And seeing as I'm not having any more printers because I just can't afford anymore, it might leave me a bit of space to get on and do what I want to do with it. But yeah, great little machine. I definitely have no regrets in having bought it. I also find it funny since people, oh God, I hate this bloody love heart. Makes it impossible to read people's messages. It really is terribly annoying. There we go. I also find it funny since people already handled all the important info when they buy the printer from their site. Whether I'm misreading that. But yeah, I do find that it's not necessarily the things that's obvious to us that cause problems. I mean, it's daft things like if somebody doesn't want to use the AMS unit and only wants to print with single color, well, the easiest way to do that, rather than having to go through all the touchscreen and all the software and fiddle about with it, is just unplug the AMS unit from the back of the machine. You know, It's easy to say, oh, well, you go to this menu, this sub-menu, and you press single filament only, and then you pull one of the Bowden tubes out and you put your Bowden tube in from your... Surely the simplest way is just pull it out the back, and then there's no problems. And then when you go to print multicolor, it'll say, well, you haven't got an AMS unit, and then you remember to plug it back in again. You know, simple things like that. You've just woken up. I'm guessing you were out all of yesterday then. I'm saying no more. But yeah, that's where I'm going with it. Simple, straightforward. Nothing flashy, nothing too. I'm just trying to keep it in layman's terms. I mean, I'm hoping that people who want to 3D print have some kind of technological background to a degree, or understand the theory behind it. But there will be people that have bought this machine that don't even understand what a layer is, and how actually a 3D printed object is printed. And again, describing that in simple English, because you see people come and say, oh, I've tried to do this, it won't do that, you know, when they haven't got supports on something, because they don't understand that it can't print in midair. And until you explain that to somebody in simple layman's terms, they're not going to understand it. So again, we are going back to absolute basics, and I think there are going to be an awful lot more people at the beginning of this year that have had these printers over Christmas, that need to understand that sort of thing. You know, even to the fact, if I just did it with a piece of A4 paper and said, you know, you can't print this on top of that because these bits at the side, you see how they're drooping because there's nothing holding them up, so you need to build something underneath it to support it when you get to it. You know, just... Yeah, I see what you're saying, Bugman. I totally get what you're saying there. But yeah, that's the kind of things that we're going to come across, and that's the kind of things that are going to be going to be looked for by people. And there's going to be an awful lot of people going to forums and saying, you know, why are my prints drooping? Why did this fail? And you look at the picture and you go, oh yeah, he's put no supports in. You know, why has my mini Joel got a hairy crotch? You know, because as much as Wexter can design his minifigures to print without support, there are some things that you just cannot do. You know, it's just impossible. I mean, if you're only printing the figures for yourself to sit on a shelf, cutting away a bit of, you know, loose material underneath Joel's crotch every now and again isn't a big issue. But afternoon, Derek. It's not evening yet. It's only 3:30. Yes, yeah, there is going to be some comedy, definitely. But like I said, we have to try and be understanding. And if I can do a few simple to understand videos that just help people out, I mean, I've started looking through the larger YouTube channels, and they've explained, you know, about supports, and they've explained, but in some ways I still feel that their videos are a little bit technical. And if I can bring it down to utter basics, because that's where I'm best, is utter basics, that might be a good thing. Hey, Collie, good to see you, mate. Thanks for bobbing in. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. Like I say, I love the printer. It's the usual thing that you go through there. The X1 Carbon hasn't done anything since I got the A1. I will be using them in tandem. I will be doing some stuff where I want both of them to print. If there is a need and people ask for it, I will be doing videos head to head, that kind of thing. But I just think it's not going to be particularly interesting for you guys. I promise you, once I get stuff and my head sorted out, I promise you I will be doing more lives, because I know quite a few of you just like the crack. and the chat that we have. But I think doing some simple, informative videos, like I say, for those that are going to be new to it this coming new year, might be a plan. So that's kind of where the channel's going to go for a while. But I'm just impressed that my figures have started to come back up a little bit again. And like I say, maybe 10 new subscribers in the last 2 weeks, which for me is absolutely phenomenal, because it's only been going one way over the last 12 months or so. It's just been going down, 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 and I'd like to see it come back up, because if you've got a YouTube channel of your own, or you do anything where you have followers, subscribers, any of that sort of thing, that warm feeling you get when you look at your subscribers, and it's ping, somebody subscribed. It's a very good feeling, very good feeling. And of course, Smurf helped a lot. It as those of you who were there will know, it really sort of re-energized me as a person, to maybe try and do a bit more again this year. Yeah, I know, Bugman. Absolutely, it's a weird sensation, but like I say, when I ever get a thank you on a on a video, or like I say, I am still getting. I got a question the other day on one of my. I was updating the firmware on an original Ender 3, and I got a question off that video. Got a private message off that video from somebody who has somehow got hold of an original Ender 3 and was trying to flash the firmware and was trying to use my video for them to flash it. But of course, all the links in the video description were all dead, because it was so long ago, and you don't go back and you don't update your links, because you don't think anybody's going to have an original Ender 3 and want to flash the firmware up to something more modern, because we all think we've moved far on from that. But got the message. I said, leave it with me, because I checked the links immediately and saw that they were all dead. I said, leave it with me. I'll do a little bit of investigating, find out where I can get hold of it for you, but send you some links personally, and if you have any more problems, we'll try and get you through it. And I just think I put him onto TH3D Studios and their unified firmware, and they still have on their website all that firmware and how to do it. And I said, watch my video again, go on to TH3D. It's going to cost him maybe £4, I think, to download their unified firmware, and see how you get on. And I got a message back a day or so later. Worked an absolute treat. Thank you so much. I'm off printing. I don't know what he was printing. I think he was trying to print lithophanes with it, and was as happy as Larry. So, like I said, a little warm feeling when you get stuff like that. Yeah, you will. It's weird how your more obscure videos you seem to get more feedback from than your more mainstream videos, Derek. And I think it's because with bigger YouTube channels, I think they put out so much content that things gets lost. Videos on things like belt putters and stuff like that get buried through so much other content that they put out, which means people who, like you and I, who don't put out as many videos or as much content, that slightly strange content, for some reason, through the algorithm, seems to, sort of come up slightly higher. Yeah, so that's where we're going with it. I'm not going to stay on much longer, even though there is 12 of you watching, which is fantastic. Oh, my sister's in the chat. Hello, Sarah. Hope you had a lovely day yesterday. We did, and I did all the cooking on the Aga, and it all turned out absolutely brilliant. We had all of her family around, and had a really good day yesterday. Ate far too much. But hey, but nice to see you, sis. Good morning. Happy Boxing Day. I bet you're not doing trolling around the pubs, are you? No, not anymore. Those days are over. So yeah, I am. That's where I'm going. What I do need to say to Sarah is, if you are ever thinking about buying a 3D printer, Bambu Labs A1. You won't go far wrong with that. You'll have fun printing with that if you ever get that way. Working. Oh my goodness. Fancy working on Boxing Day. How awful. So yeah, if anybody has any queries, thoughts, suggestions for things I ought to do on it or on anything else in the new year, just let me know. I might start doing something tomorrow because it's given awful weather tomorrow here in the UK. We've got high winds and rain all day. So rather than just sit watching Christmas television and that kind of thing, I might actually come up here and either do some pieces to camera, or I might just crank up the laptop and have a little chat with whoever's about, just a bit like I've done now. Maybe something on the up to New Year, might start doing something. But yeah, want to keep focused now. I don't want to lose my interest anymore. I want to try and keep this going a bit longer. But yeah, that's about it. I hope the stream's been all right for you guys. Like I say, it has just been done on the MacBook, so I don't know whether I've been dropping frames or whatever. I've just been using OBS Studio because my main desk and my main computer is that side of me. It's behind me, which is where I normally sit with the big PC that seems to handle everything okay. I mean, I'm only doing. It reckons I'm doing 40 frames a second. It reckons I've only dropped 27 frames, so that's not bad going. But yeah, if I don't speak to you before, have a great New Year's Eve, and don't feel too groggy on New Year's Day because it doesn't. Not a good way to start the new year with a massive great hangover. Don't forget, I am on Twitter. If you want to hit me up privately on Twitter, I'm always on Twitter. Generally sat in the background, but I'm always there. And look out for my old posts between now and New Year about bits and pieces. I appreciate all 12 of you turning up and giving me your time on this beautiful Boxing Day. Look after yourself, look after your loved ones, and at some point I'm now going to start pressing buttons to try and work out how the hell to turn this off, but I'll work it out. I'm just going to do that to there. You see, I'm such a professional. Yeah, BritHawks, and to you, mate. I want to start seeing some stuff turning up on Twitter. I want to see some of your prints since you got your machine. It might be Christmas, but you can't forget about your 3D printers. Take care, everyone. Love to all, and I'll see you real soon.